And let me share the agenda, what all things we are doing today. Okay, so as yesterday mentioned, we'll talk about VNet pairing, that is how the resources will be communicating within two different networks. That is first thing. The other is we'll talk about NAT Gateway. What exactly is NAT Gateway? And the third, we'll talk about Bastion host. These are the three things we'll try to cover today. Okay, so let's start with VNet pairing first. So let me draw the diagram again about the VNet pairing, what we were discussing yesterday. So we'll create two virtual networks. Anyone has any questions before we start? No questions? Okay. So what exactly VNet pairing is? So VNet pairing will enable you seamlessly connect to other virtual networks in Azure. So easily, what is the benefit of VNet pairing? Low latency, because your communication is happening using Microsoft backbone network. High bandwidth connection, and the ability of resources for connecting from communicating within one network to the other network privately. It's not through public, privately you're doing. You can even transfer data from one network to other network. So whatever resources you have in one network, that same resources can be shared across other network also. Okay, so suppose if you have one network on 10.0.0.0/16, this other network you can create on something called 10.1.0.0/16. We can have a subnet created and not create multiple subnets, guys. So I'll stick with one single subnet for now. So I can have subnet created within this network. The subnet would be something around 10.10.0.1.0/24. Makes sense? This will be my one subnet in this network, and in this network I'll have other subnet created. This subnet range I'll give something called 10.1.1.0/24. Once the subnet is created, we'll have a VM created over here. We'll have a VM1 created. And then this will be my front end VM. Then I'll have a backend VM created over here. This will be my backend VM. That is DB1. So through internet, I want to enable communication between these two VMs, which is there in two different networks. And I have I'll be assigning a public IP, a NIC card over here, and to the NIC card I'll be assigning a public IP. Why exactly I'm assigning a public IP? And so that I can connect to this VM at least from outside world. From outside world, if I want to connect, so at least I can connect to this VM using port 22. Then through VM1, altogether to a different network, I'll be connecting to this resource. And I'll not assign any public IP. I'll just assign a NIC card, but only a private IP will be assigned over here, not a public IP. NIC again is network interface card. Okay, so you'll have all your VMs will have a NIC card, guys, and it will have a NSGs attached to it. And you will have NSGs attached to your NIC itself. So you will have your NSG also attached to your NIC itself. Okay, makes sense? NSG. Okay, so this is how the VNet pairing will be happening. So VNet pairing will help you connect to from one network to other network seamlessly. So post that connection, the traffic between these virtual machines can be shared across, and it will be using a Microsoft backbone infrastructure to share traffics. Okay, so because it is using Microsoft backend network, it will have low latency and it will have high bandwidth connection. Okay, so this is from the theory part. Let's go and execute. If anyone has any questions, please do let me know, or else we can start with the execution part, guys. Anyone has any questions? If no, then let me start with the execution part. So let me create this infra first. I'll have a virtual network created. I'll name this as VNet 1. Let me change it to East US. IP address range, I'll leave it as it is. And the subnet range also, I'll leave it as it is. If you want to make changes, you can go and remove it and you can add whatever IP range you want, whatever subnet you want. For now, I just leave it as it is, okay? Okay, so this virtual network is created. Similarly, I can create one more. Let's create one more and keep it. No, it's still getting created, guys, not yet created. And I'll just name it as VNet 2. So if you see, I'm keeping it in the same region right now. So there are two types of VNet pairing which you can do. You can keep it in the same region, one. The second is you can even keep it in other region and you can do VNet pairing. So for now, we'll stick with the same region concept, and later we'll have a other region concept also. If you want, we can try that also. There's no issue. Okay. This is, I'm going to creating the other VNet right now.
Mr. Wright,
Yep. Tell me.
do you know when you put the region in East US, is that the
Mhm.
best policy or just are you doing it in case if there's any breakdown of the VMs?
No, that's not the best policy. The reason why I'm creating things in East US because we are using free tier. Okay, so in free tier there are many services. By default, it is only available in East US or West US, and there
Okay,
are many
okay,
services which will not be available in any other region. Okay,
okay,
because we are in free tier. That is the whole purpose over here. But the policies will be depending upon the type of project you're working on. So if your project belongs to US, it's better be in US region itself. But if your project allows you that, yeah, you can go to other regions, share your data with other region also, then at that time you can go and check the exact pricing, which region is the highest and which is the lowest. Based on that, you can select it. But
okay,
most of the governments, the federals, they don't allow sharing data outside country network.
okay,
So if you're in US and if your company is in US, make sure that you select US region itself and all your data are stored in US within US. Okay, it's not shared with other region because your data are getting copied to that other country, in short. So same goes with India. If we are in India, in Asia, so we'll be selecting the data center which is nearby to us and not sharing the data across. Okay, so that is the government policies. And if your company is okay, no, my data is going outside India, then it's totally fine. So it's up to them what policies they are following. Okay. As of now, I'm selecting East US because most of the services is available in East US for me because I'm using free tier. There could be a chance that if I try to select any other region, and there could be a chance that I may end up getting error. Okay. So two things has been created. I got two virtual networks created. I have this created, subnet created, this created, this created. Now let's do a VPC pairing. So I'll do a VPC pairing over here. That's not VPC, guys. VPC is a word from AWS. VNet pairing. So I'm very used to of this term VPC. That's why. Okay, so let me do a VNet pairing. I'll go to VNet 1. So when you go to VNet 1, and if you come down, there is an option of VNet pairing. Do you see there's an option of pairing over here? Under VNet 1, under settings, if you come down, there's an option of pairing. And you can simply click on add. Give a pairing name. Give a name as VNet pairing. Okay, traffic to remote virtual network allow. Traffic forward from remote virtual network allow. So from, if you have any VMs created in this VNet pairing, do you want to allow traffic? That is what exactly it is asking for. So yes, both are allowed. Virtual network gateway or route server. So if you want a routing or virtual network gateway and all, that is, we have not added anything as well, so we'll keep it none. What is the name of the pairing link name? So I just need a name it as VNet link. Give whatever naming convention you want, but make sure give those naming convention that will make more sense. Okay. Virtual network deployment model. So I'll be deploying things on a resource group level. So I'll select resource group. My subscription is free. What are the networks you want to connect? So I'll want to connect to the VNet 2. We are already creating a pairing at VNet 1. So which network you want to connect to? I want to connect to VNet 2. So selecting VNet 2. Again, the same questions and just add. So what exactly I'm doing, I've created a VNet pairing and I'm connecting this two VNets together using VNet pair network. Okay, make sense? What exactly we are doing, guys? Anyone has any doubt, any questions? So this is VNet pairing which is taking place. Now I'll be creating VMs. One will be in public domain, the other VM will be in private domain. And we'll try to see if we are able to communicate within this network. Okay, let's wait while the pairing is happening. Okay, updating, the pairing is updated, the status is updated. Let's refresh it. Connected. Okay, so using VNet 1, I'm able to connect to VNet 2. How do we test it? I can create VMs in this and I can test it. Let's go to VM 1. So let's select the same and I have this one selected. East US is okay. It's okay. This password, I'll just select Valaxy. Okay. Ports, I'm allowing port 22 for now. Okay. NIC card is there. I'm assigning public IP to this. Virtual network selected, the first virtual network, and this is the subnet. I'm assigning public IP to this because from internet, from my local machine, I want to connect to this machine. So I need to have a public IP assigned because I will not be able to do SSH after that. Okay, let's do it. Okay, so this is in progress right now. So this is getting created in virtual network 1. Let's go and create one more VM which will be in virtual network 2. And this time I'll not assign any public IP because the communication will happen through virtual network 1. We'll name it as DB1. Okay, I'll just allow port 22 because the communication will happen on port 22. This time I'll select virtual network 2 and no public IP, guys. So I'll just select none over here. All other things will remain as it is. I'll just review and create. So what did we do? We created this VM. We created this VM. Had this energy and NIC card attached. This will get auto attached, guys. And even this got attached. Had a public IP assigned to this VM through which I'll be able to SSH. And once I am SSHing, I'll be connecting to this VNet pairing to this machine, which is in backend, which is not exposed to internet, no public IP assigned to this particular machine. Okay. Let's wait while the things are getting created. These are all network layer security we are talking about, starting from a simple NSG to filter your traffic. We talked about ESG for logical grouping your VMs. Third, we talked about VNet pairing for sharing network and resources within two network. Third, we'll talk about NAT gateway. Sorry, fourth, we'll talk about NAT gateway. Fifth, we'll talk about Bastion host. So these are all network layer security which we're talking about, guys. So when you're setting up your own infra, these are the least security which you need to apply. Okay, if you have such security enabled at your cloud infra, then there is a great chance that you may avoid any sort of hacking or DOS attack. So these are the least network security which you can play around with it. Okay, I got both the VMs available now. DB1, VM1. Now DB1 has a public IP. The VM1 has a public IP, but the DB1 doesn't have a public IP. That is for purpose we did. Now let's go and do a quick connection check. So I'll log into VM1. Perfect. I'm able to log in. Done. I'm able to log in. Perfect. VM1. Let's go to DB1. What is the private IP? I don't know. I have to go inside this first. And I have come down. This is 10.1.0.4. This is a private IP. And if you saw, there is no public IP. So this is not exposed to public. All the communication should happen via VM1 and virtual network 1. So let's test it. Perfect, guys. Do you see I'm able to connect? Perfect. Do you see? We got DB1. So this communication is happening using VNet pairing. It's not directly, your DB1 is not directly exposed to any internet. All the traffic, whatever traffic you see, this traffic is coming from this guy. This guy, the traffic is coming from. Make sense? Anyone? Any questions? Any doubt? No questions, guys? Okay, if there's no question, make sure to go and practice this, because if you don't practice, there's a great chance you will forget everything. Okay?
Rohit, Karim here. So, what is the
Yeah.
difference between AHG and VNet pairing? Both are same concepts, right? So, through VM1, we connected to another VM.
Not a same concept,
Uh,
Kareem, I would say. This is just because very similar demo we did. That's the reason you're thinking it's the same concept. ASG, the role is to logical group your VMs. So imagine you have 100 of front-end VMs. Okay, so 100 of front-end VMs needs to connect to the backend databases. Okay,
okay.
so at that time you will be logical grouping those 100 VMs into ASG, and through ASG the network traffic will be routed to the backend databases. Okay, that is the main purpose of ASG, to routing traffic and logical grouping VMs. This what we did is VNet pairing. So in this case, I've just showed you a very simple example of network traffic sharing between two VMs. But forget about this VM toss. Think about other resources. In your virtual network, you could have databases. In your virtual network, you could have your Azure virtual machine skill sets. In your other virtual network, you will have your storage account. You will have your databases, SQL Server, all other resources of Azure. So this is not limited to just VMs. Your VNet pairing will not be just limited to the VM. Whatever resource you have in this networks, whatever resource you will have in this networks, if you want to have a communication established between these, then VNet pairing will be used. So this communication is happening over a private network. So your backend, whatever resource you have inside this subnet or inside this virtual network, it's not exposed to anything. It is not exposed to any public IP. It is not exposed to any public domain. Everything, all the communication is happening within this virtual network. Not just this, if you want, if there are resources in other virtual network, so suppose there's one more virtual network somewhere over here, and there are resources over here, and if you want to communicate, then even this is possible using VNet pairing. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Now, anyone else? Any other questions, guys? Now, let me just open and paint again. Okay. Now, I'm just talking about the other part, this part. Now, what exactly is NAT? This is your virtual network. This is your 10.0.0/16. Okay. In the meanwhile, what I'll do, I'll just delete all the other resources what I have so that I can create other resources. The reason I'm deleting, guys, because when I'll cover the topic Bastion host and NAT gateway, I need public IPs will be assigned to those as well. So in free tier, you can just assign the maximum of 3 public IP. When you assign the fourth IP, you will start getting error. So hence, I'm just deleting this existing one for now so that I have availability to create other resources. Okay. So just an FYI for free tier, guys. If you're not using a free tier, because even myself, I'm into a free tier right now, which will get expired today. So eventually I'll change the subscription today to pay as you go, or I'll be using my different account. Let's see what I'm doing. Okay. For now, this is a free tier account which I'm using it. Okay. So in free tier, you have quota, which is very minimum 3 public IPs, the maximum you can launch. I'll show you how to check quotas and all later in this course. But for now, just remember this and keep this in mind. So the next topic is NAT Gateway. Now, what exactly is NAT Gateway? Anyone? Network Address Translation. What exactly is NAT Gateway? Anyone has any idea about NATing?
Is that like forwarding on the traffic from one IP to another or one network to another or something?
Forwarding network from traffic from one network to other network, correct? That is what you
Yeah.
said?
Yep.
Okay, somewhat right. Anyone wants to try?
I think it's used to expose maybe internal machines that are not that don't have external IP addresses and kind of translate them to external IPs.
Perfect. Good. Very good, guys. So let me give you an example over here before I explain what exactly is NATing. NATing is a very it's a concept not just in Azure. Any cloud provider, whether you go in AWS, whether you go in Google, whether you go in Azure, you will find the NATing concept. So what exactly I'm creating right now, I have a virtual network. This is my virtual network. This is the IP range I have given. And inside the virtual network, I have created one subnet. Okay, this subnet is incorrect. It should be 24 over here. Okay, let me remove it. It should be 10.0.0/1.0/24. Okay. Now in this, I got one VM inside the subnet. This is VM1. Now in this VM, I got a NIC card attached to it. Now this time the NIC card will not have any public IP. So take this as your backend VM. So whatever example we were taking till now, so this is take it as your backend VM. Now the communication to this backend VM, how will you connect to this backend VM? Either assign a public IP and open port 22, then the communication will happen, correct? That is what we are doing till now. Now this is the backend VM. You don't want to expose to any public IP. Okay, so that is if you want to connect to this VM, expose public IP and or use Bastion. I'll talk about Bastion in a minute now. But what if this VM, the network needs to go outside internet? Why the network needs to go outside internet? If you need to update this VM, for example, there's a patching happening, you want to download packages from the repositories, and for some other reason the network needs to go outside. There could be any reason, correct? That your this backend VM, which is not exposed to internet, you cannot connect to that VM directly, but this needs to go outside for some sort of communication. This needs to go outside so that it can get the right package downloaded. It can serve anything, any purpose, anything as such. Okay, how it will go if you have not assigned any public IP to it? Because we're not assigning any public IP to it. How it will go? And if it is going outside, how it will be secured? There are multiple things which you need to keep in mind. How your network will be secured and how exactly it will go outside. Okay, so in such case, in such scenario wherein you want to connect your VMs to internet, firstly you cannot assign any public IP directly for doing that, because if you do that, there's a network breach and you're exposing your backend servers to internet, which is again a network breach which we're talking about. Okay, which we don't want to do. What are the other way around? The other way around is it's better to have a NAT. So NAT, what exactly NAT will do? We'll have a NAT somewhere over here. Don't have space. So let me create a NAT over here. So this is outside network. This is NAT. This is your NAT gateway. NAT gateway. So this NAT gateway, what will have this NAT gateway? This NAT gateway will have a public IP. This NAT gateway will have a public IP attached to it. Now all your traffic going outside will be connecting to this NAT. Your private IP will be connecting to this NAT, masking it as and using this public IP, and then it will go to internet for any sort of communication. That is called network access translation. Sorry guys. Now, whenever there's a network going outside, so all the communication will happen through the public IP of NAT. Now, when the hacker tries to hack and check, expose this public IP, if he get hold to this public IP, he will be reaching only till NAT. He will not have access to this VMs which is there in the backend, because whatever communication is happening of this VM, that is happening through this NAT gateway, and this NAT gateway has its own IP, the public IP. So this IP is basically getting exposed on the internet, nothing else. That is network address translation. It is literally translating your private IP and using this public IP as a source and exposing to the network. This is only for those resources to whom you don't want to expose to internet, to whom you don't want to expose to public IP. But yeah, later somewhere in down the line you want to connect to outbound traffic, you want to connect through a internet to the backend also. So there could be a scenario that you're doing patching and all, and you want to connect to internet for downloading packages, or there could be any other scenario. Okay, in such cases, you'll be using NAT gateway. Make sense? Anyone, any questions till here? What exactly is NAT? Anyone? Okay, so no questions, and let's go and set up this NAT and see how it works in reality. So just at the top, just look for NAT. You will find out NAT gateway. Click on create. I'll have a new resource group created. Okay, I'll give a NAT name. Give whatever name you want to give, my NAT or whatever name you want to give. Region, I'll stick with West Europe for now because we are using East US. Okay. Availability zone, we haven't talked about availability zone yet, so I'll stick with no zone. So when I talk about availability zone, availability set, at that time I'll give you the importance of availability zone and things like that. Idle timeout, I can make it 10. Okay. In the next outbound IP, as I said, your NAT will have a IP address. So that is, we need to assign it. So public IP, I can go and create a new public IP. I can give a name as NAT IP, whatever name you want to give, that's totally up to you. NAT IP, and I can use this. Public IP prefix, leave it as it is for now. Subnet and all, just leave it for now. Just click on review and create. So what exactly we are doing? We are creating a NAT, that's network address translation gateway. So this part. So we are creating this part with a public IP right now. Okay. Later we'll have this VM create, this virtual network created. Then we'll have this subnet created. Then we'll have this VM1 created. Okay, perfect. This is done. Now next I'll be creating a virtual network. Deployment gateway could not found. What is this? Let me refresh it. I think my subscription got disabled, guys. No, the status is still showing active. My credit got 0. So this is free tier. It was supposed to get expired today, but still showing active right now. It's not disabled yet, but there's no credit right now. Let's see the logs if the NAT is getting created or it is failed. Let's see the resources. Okay, I think the NAT is ready. My NAT is ready. Why I got the error? Okay, the NAT is not currently operational. To use this gateway, we need to add a subnet. That's okay. We'll add it later. Okay, so my NAT is ready. I got the NAT gateway up and running right now. The second is, let's connect the virtual network. Create a virtual network, not a virtual machine. A virtual network. Okay, let's go and create a virtual network. Let's name this virtual network whatever name you want to give. Okay, for now just VNet 1 will be more than enough. East Europe is okay. My VNet, whatever name you want to give it. Address, I'll have 10.1. This is okay. If you want to change it, you can even go and change this default one also. I can have a subnet created over here. I can name it as my subnet. What is IP? 1.0.0/24. Okay. Now, if you come down, there is an option to attach a NAT gateway. So I can go and attach the NAT gateway over here, the one which we created, my NAT. So keep this in mind, guys. You're attaching a NAT gateway right over here. Add. Okay. Then I go to security. I'll enable Bastion host this time. So let me enable Bastion host and let me enable it first. Then I'll talk about this Bastion host. What exactly is Bastion host? For this time, enabling Bastion host, I give it name my Bastion. Okay. And I'll give a subnet range to my Bastion host also. Then I'll talk about what exactly this is. I can give this /26. The rest everything I'll keep disabled and I just review and create. This Bastion host will take a good amount of time. There's a security error I see. Okay, sorry. Public IP is not there. I'll have to create a public IP for my Bastion host also. So my Bastion IP. Okay. So that was the reason why I have deleted everything at first hand, guys. So this was the whole purpose why I had deleted my previous resources, because there are a couple of IPs which we are assigning. Now let's wait while the things are getting created right now. Anyone has any questions, guys, in between? No questions? Put yourself on mute.
I can think. Yeah. So just bring your drugs every day. I'm not able to just like science.
Hello, Mr. Rohit.
Yeah, can you put yourself on mute? Yeah.
You need drugs just pick up and leave. It's continue.
From where do I mute everyone? I'm just checking that option. Yeah, getting sound. Not sure this one. Okay, now yeah, ask me. I think someone was asking something.
But in an actual project, for example, let's say they ask you to create a NAT environment,
Mm-hmm.
for the public IP, you assign the public IP for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then so like you said, you deleted the other resource groups. Is it because you didn't want to get confused, or
No. It's not about confusion. It's about the limit. So in
okay,
free tier, you don't have a limit to create more than 3 IPs.
okay,
Okay, so we cannot create more than 3 IPs in free tier. Hence, I have to delete, because if I don't delete this deployment, which you see right now, which is in progress, it will fail eventually. Okay,
okay,
but in reality, you will not have this free tier like me. In reality, you will have a paid account, so you'll not have all such issues in reality. Okay. In free tier, if you go into free trial, there is an option of quota and limit. Let me show you while this is getting created. If you go to your users quota, so this is the location where you can see what are the limits you have it. Okay, so if you look for public IP, well, it's not giving me networking. So this is where you can come and see. See, the limit is over. It's 100%. If I want to try anything else, I cannot do it. Now, do you see this public IP allocation? The maximum I can do it's 3. more than 3, I cannot use it. And there is a box which is grayed out. This is grayed out because I'm using free tier. If you're using pay as you go, you can go and make changes, and you can send requests to Microsoft asking to increase the limit. But in such case, in my case, I cannot even do that. Wherever you see this support icon, this means a ticket will be created and Microsoft will be approving that limit of yours. And wherever you see this pencil sign, that means it will be, you will have the control and you can go and increase your limit. But this is not applicable for free tier guys. Okay, keep that in mind. Okay, hopefully that helps. Okay, now what exactly is Bastion? Because even a Bastion host is getting created. So guys, even to connect from internet, like I'm from internet, if I want to connect, what I'm doing, I'm exposing ports such as port 22, that is to connect to Linux VM, or I'm exposing port 3389, that is to connect Windows VM. Correct? These are the ports which we are using. Now these are very generic port. The whole world knows that if you want to connect to any VM, then there is a port 22 which is open, or port 3389 which is open for RDP. These are very generic, and this will lead to disaster and a biggest network breach which will happen in your company. These are very generic and you cannot keep this port open for long time. In reality, you cannot open this port for long time. Plus you're exposing a public IP also. Even though it is a front end, you're exposing a public IP. So there are so many doors which you are opening for others to come and enter your network. Okay, so how do you avoid such things? Okay, how do you avoid such things that you don't need to expose your VM's public IP, or you don't need to expose, or you don't need to even open any such 22 or 3389 ports? So such things can be helped in Azure. This can be done using a concept called Bastion. So within this network, you will have your Bastion host. Within this network, you will have a Bastion host. Now, what exactly is Bastion? We'll understand that. This is what it will look like, and if you see, if you have noticed, I have given a subnet range to this Bastion host, something like this: 1.1/26. This is something I've given it to it when I was creating the virtual network. So the Bastion host will have its own subnet, and all your traffic, and this will also have a NSG. This Bastion host will also have a NSG, and all your traffic will be routing through this now. And you don't need to expose anything over here. Nothing over here. Nothing at your subnet level. You don't need to expose anything. Everything will be happening on this level. So a Bastion host is a service which will help you deploy, and it can help you connect to your virtual machine using your browser. Later, when you want to connect to your VMs, you can make use of portal, and you can make use of a browser through which you can connect. Or you can even use native SSH or RDP clients. So this is a fully managed PaaS service that you can provision inside your virtual network. So it's a platform as a service provided by Microsoft. This is basically, in the backend, it's a VM, guys, which gets created. It's a virtual machine which gets created, and that virtual machine, you will not have any access to it. It will be completely managed by Microsoft. The only thing, how do you create? The way I have created, just enable the Bastion host, and the Bastion host is getting created right now. This will take 15 minutes and more to create a Bastion host. So keep that in mind. It's not uh, a straightforward within 1 or 2 minutes this will be created. This will take a good amount of time. So you have to be very patient when you're working with Bastion host. So the importance of Bastion host will be you will be able to connect directly. How exactly it works? So this is your portal. This is where we are right now. Your portal is right over here, Azure portal. So if you want to connect, so the connection will be like this. You will be using your portal, connecting to your Bastion host first, then connecting to your VMs. This is how you can secure your complete VMs. No exposure of public IP. The thing we are exposing, we are not even exposing any port. We are not opening any port at this NSG. Have you opened any port? 223389? Any generic ports? No, we are not opening that. All traffic, everything needs to be opened over here at this point. Every traffic will be coming from here. This way, you'll be able to connect. So this will help you. So if you want to connect to any VMs which is not there in public domain, which doesn't have a public IP, and you want to connect to that VM through SSH or through RDP, then Bastion host is the best way to connect to those VMs, guys. Okay. So in such cases, you'll be making use of Bastion host. What are the benefits of using Bastion host? So the first benefit, you can RDP and SSH through Azure portal. Okay. No public IP address required to your VMs. No hassle of managing network security groups. Now you don't have to worry about what port you have opened, what port you have not opened. No hassle. You don't need to manage the NSGs. Till now we were managing NSGs, correct? With Bastion, you don't need to do it. Plus, you don't need to manage a separate Bastion host on a VM. Okay, so this is all a managed service. So this is all will be managed by Microsoft. Protection against port scanning. So the hackers, they are very smart in the world. They always keep on checking which port 223389, if such generic ports are open in the world, they will try to enter your network. So again, if you don't have any such ports open, so there's no chance that anyone will enter your VM. Okay, so let's wait. I'm still waiting for my Bastion host to come up. So it's still there. Let's wait. Let me go to the resource group. Let me see if the Bastion is up. Let me refresh it. It takes around 15 minutes of time. So see the zero credit remaining. That means all my I had around 14,000 rupees over here. It's all gone, and it is asking to upgrade to pay as you go subscription. The reason is the free tier 1 month of time is gone, completed. Okay, successfully deployed. Now we got how many, what all things we have this Bastion host deployed, we have this virtual network deployed, we got this subnet deployed, we got this NAT gateway deployed, we got this public IP deployed. How do I test it? I need to test two service of mine, correct? I need to test this Bastion host connection. I need to test this NAT gateway connection also. There are two things I need to test. Okay. So what I can do, I can create a VM now. This time I'll create a VM in Windows VM, guys. Till now we were using Linux. Let's create a Windows one and let's see how do you connect to Windows machine. Okay, let's select the resource group. I'll name it as VM1. West Europe availability zone, it's okay. Image, this time I'll select Windows Server 2022 data center edition 2. Now definitely one vCPU and 1 gig of memory will not work in Windows, guys, because it's a Windows machine. So you have to go and at least select this one vCPU and 3.5 gig memory at least. And see the costing, guys. This is not under free tier. Okay. Now user ID Valaxy test 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. So on purpose I'm using Windows so that I can show you how we connect to Windows. I'm not opening any ports over here. What did I say? I'll be using Bastion. So public inbound ports, none. I'm not opening any ports at my NSG level. Networking, I'll select my virtual network 1. I'll select my subnet. No public IP, none. Okay. I'm not selecting any public IP or anything as such. So I'll be selecting this as none. Okay. What next? Okay. Now next, management. It's okay. Monitoring, I'll disable it for now. Advanced, there's nothing. Review and create. I've selected my virtual network. I'll selected my subnet and all public IP and the ports I have kept it as none. So outside, I'm not exposing any ports right now. Why did I do it? Because I want to connect to this VM using my own Bastion host. Let's wait and see. Hopefully it should allow me to create this VM, because or else I have to switch to pay as you go immediately, because this is not comes under free tier. This VM which I'm launching right now, it's not under free tier. There's a charge involved for that VM. Okay, let's wait and let's see if things go smooth. Anyone, any questions while we are waiting for this VM to get created, guys? Questions?
NATing is only for outbound traffic. Means when we are
Yes.
creating. Okay.
All your traffic will go through NATing. So because this is the backend VMs which you're talking about, so we don't allow anything come inside. There's nothing we are opening, that no ports will be opened at 80 or at port 22, nothing will be opened. So no traffic. But what about the traffic going outside? You need to have something, correct? Now if you want to go outside, then too you need a public IP for the communication. So that traffic, the outside traffic, will go through NAT. Okay, this NAT is basically, guys, within this virtual network. So don't confuse if I'm keeping this outside just for that. There's no space over here, but this is actually part of your virtual network only. Okay, you remember this. I just for demonstration I kept it outside, but this is actually somewhere over here. Your NAT will be somewhere over here. Okay, within the network. Okay, your VM is there. Now the first thing, I'll test this part. Bastion. I have Bastion over here, correct? How do I connect? Let's go to this VM. And now if there's no public IP, correct? No public IP, I just have one private IP. How do I connect? And even if you go to the network NSG, there is no ports open. For connecting to Windows, we need RDP port, that is 3389. No ports open. How do I connect? Then if you come down, there is an option of Bastion over here. Click on Bastion. Now you can see the screen. This is because I've already created Bastion beforehand. We have created this beforehand when I was creating the virtual network. In case you forgot to create the virtual Bastion, this is the place you can come and click. And if you select the option create Bastion, it will automatically create the Bastion for you again. Okay, so for now, let's go and connect to my VM. So I'm connecting to my VM using my Azure portal. That is what I said. You can connect to your VM using your portal. Now connect. Now this is this part, guys, we are currently doing this part. Okay, then later we'll see this part. See, Valaxy, it's a Windows machine which is launching right now without any generic port open on my network, without assigning any public IPs to my VM, keeping everything behind the scene, and using Azure portal. We are connected to a VM right now. Do you see this is a VM? We are connected inside a browser. That is what Bastion will help you. It will help you connect to your VMs using a browser. Now, if you want to open any browser, see this. You got your service manager. This is actually a server, a Windows server which we have launched. Let me close this, and let me simply go and open a browser, Microsoft Edge. Now the next part, how the data which is going outside, that should go through my NAT. So I'm connecting to this VM. Now this VM needs to go to internet. Now I want everything, all the traffic should go through this public IP only. It should not expose anything, not my Bastion public IP, nothing should get exposed. Everything should go through this NAT gateway only. How do we verify? I can simply go and check what is my public IP. That way I can verify. Okay. So firstly, go and check the NAT IP. What is the NAT IP we have assigned? So let's go and look for NAT. NAT has a public IP. What is the public IP? This is 52.136.251.31. Okay, how do I check it? I can simply go and look for in the browser, which is I'm inside my VM, guys. I'm not on my local browser. I can simply look for https what's my ip.com. So this will give me a prompt through which my communication is happening over the internet. This gives you a public IP, what public IP you're using. What is the public IP, guys? 52.136.251.31. Do you see this? The communication is happening through NAT. This is how you will be testing your NAT. So this is your VM. Your VM is you're able to connect to your VM without opening any generic port. That is one security. You're using Bastion. Now your VM is also able to connect to internet without exposing any public IP. That is through NAT. So two very important things we did today. Understanding what is Bastion, understanding what is NAT Gateway. Make sense? Any questions?
Yeah, what is the difference between NAT and Bastion?
Bastion is to connect to your VMs. How you do SSH and you RDP onto your VMs. So for doing that, you need to have a public IP first, and the second you need to open generic port which is prone to security breach. Generic ports such as port 223389. If you want to avoid both the things, you don't want to create public IP, you don't want to open generic port, then at that case you will be using Bastion to connecting to your VM, to your virtual machines, to your servers. One thing. NAT, if there is no public IP on your assigned to your VM, how exactly your VM will connect to internet if there's some requirement? For if your VM needs to connect to internet, there is a public IP which you need to assign, which you want to avoid. If you want to avoid such thing, then you can have a NAT gateway. So NAT gateway will have its own public IP. So all your traffic will be routed through NAT. So again, you're not exposing any public IP. Your VM is not exposed. If any hackers tries to enter your network, they will reach the maximum. They will reach only till NAT. They cannot reach to your VM. So again, a additional security layer which you are putting for your virtual machine servers. Make sense? So NAT is different, Bastion host is different, guys. Don't get confused. Yeah, questions?
I have a question. So is it okay? Is it safe to say that developers would typically use connect to the Bastion to do their work, and will use NAT gateways for patching and things of that nature? Is that pretty standard?
Perfect. Yes. If anyone, not developers or administrators, anyone wants to connect to the VM, they will be taking the route of Bastion. And to that VM, if you want to have some sort of patching or some package needs to be downloaded, or if you want to connect to the internet from that VM, then you'll be using that. Perfect. Okay. So if no questions, agenda for tomorrow, we'll understand how do we calculate billing. Very important point to understand. We'll understand VM family. What are the different family series we have in Azure? And then we'll talk about availability and resiliency, in which we'll talk about, so I've not even referred to the PPTs, guys, but this is the PPT, a Bastion host, and this is a diagram which I just created roughly over here. So Bastion host is a service you deploy that lets you connect to virtual machine using browser and or via native SSH or RDP client. So I have already shared this PPT. If you don't have, please reach out to Valaxy team, they will help you with. And tomorrow agenda, these are very important topic. Now availability zone, availability set, virtual machine scale set, load balancer, Azure storage redundancy, Azure site recovery. Again, this is from security perspective. This is from resiliency perspective. These are the topics which we'll cover. Before that, we'll understand virtual machine families, and we'll understand how things are calculated. The billing happens in Azure. Okay, so that's it for today. Let's meet up tomorrow and let's start with this interesting topic of Azure availability and resiliency. If anyone has any questions, do let me know, or we can wind up the call for today. Anyone?
I have a question. It's not related to the topic. It's more about payment. So I made a payment today. Is there
Mm,
anything else I'm supposed to be expecting as far as a material, or how does that work?
no, just reach out to Valaxy team. I think there is a WhatsApp number in this chat. If you go and look into the chat, there's a WhatsApp number and the email ID. There is a person called Bindu and Madhu. They can help you out with any such queries regarding payment and everything. Okay,
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
no problem. And I think Vijaya, uh, please reach out to Valaxy team for docs and portal access. Okay,
Okay, thank you.
no problem. Thank you very much, guys. Bye bye.